You know, if you come from a game like Call of Duty, this game will actually probably shock you the way that people talk to you. All right, I'm going to do another 5 things that I've learned in Hell Let Loose since I started playing. Coming from a COD veteran and into something like this has been an eye-opening experience when it comes to video games. And so I want to share that experience with you. And so if this video helps you out at all, if you're a new player, make sure you subscribe, drop me a like, or if you're a seasoned vet, you can kind of join me along in my experience and my growth in Hell Let Loose. First thing I'm going to talk about is learning the lingo. So I got this comment the other day on that original Hell Let Loose video, and you're going to feel like you are in another world. You're going to feel like you're in a World War II situation, or a wartime situation at least, the way people start talking to you. And communication is going to be key, and there's a lot of different elements to communication in this game, but one, of course, is learning the lingo. So OP, which is outpost, garrisons, right? So these are places where either just you can spawn, or just your teammates can spawn, or your entire team can spawn. And so that's why it's important. You got to have commanders. If there's no commander in that squad, if the commander is there but he's not talking, if he's not building outposts, you really have to be wary of that, because otherwise you're just going to be running around this map. And trust me, you don't want to be running around just to get domed from somebody that you never even saw, just to spawn back in and do the same thing. Trust me, this game will not be fun if that's the route you go. So learning some of those things is vital. Holy shit, dude. P4 and Panzer and Lux, these are armored vehicles, right? And so when you hear things like that, you need to avoid those areas. Sector may be something that you're familiar with if you're a Battlefield player, which is pretty self-explanatory, but one correction I had to make from the original video is, you know, it's actually a 2-minute timer no matter how many people you actually have on the sector. And then you have strong points inside of those sectors. So there's a lot of things that you will learn, and there's a lot of things I'll continue to learn, I'm sure, when it comes to the lingo. Those are just some of the basic ones. Another thing I want to talk about is giving this game time. It takes time. So if you're somebody, and I'm guilty of this too, by the way. You guys have seen me stream games where I'll stream it for an hour and then I'll just kind of be done with it. If I don't get hooked instantly, it's really not for me. Now, fortunately, I love this time period, so I was willing to give it some time. But if you're just willing to give it an hour or maybe 2, this is not the game for you. And I'm being very conservative here. I would say probably, give it 20 hours. I mean, that could essentially be 20 games or less, maybe more, depending on the game and how fast things go. But regardless, man, if you're going to invest in this, right, you don't know if you're going to like it or whatever the case may be, maybe watch some videos on it. But if you do end up buying it and you're the type of person that has to get hooked instantly, I would kind of throw that out the window and at least give it 20 hours so you can kind of learn how everything works in this game, because again, it's different from any other shooter that I've ever played. Another thing is, if you have a friend that plays this game, or you find somebody that is willing to talk to you in the game and kind of lead you along, don't be afraid to say, hey man, I'm new at the game, where do we need to go? I actually got linked up with a guy, just a random guy recently, and so I was actually the commander of the squad, and I offered to him, hey, would you like me to get out of the commander role, you take it over. And then I just started, asking them questions. Hey, where do I need to go? So taking direction is vital in this game. And then once you find somebody that's willing to give you some direction, ask a bunch of questions, man. When things, parachutes start coming down and bombing raids, and hey, where should my outpost go? Hey, where should I put this garrison? Or where can I get the supplies for this outpost? Where do you want me to set up? All of those kinds of things. Learn as much as you can from somebody you either know or somebody that you connect with in the game. On another, just to kind of add on to the end of that as well, don't just take in information, but give information as well. Use your pings. Let people know where enemies are. Let them know what you're doing, and also redeploy at times when needed. If you find yourself way on the other side of the map and your whole team is over here trying to capture a strong point, you know, you can run for miles in this freaking game. If that's what you're into, go for it. But Redeploy can be a really good friend of yours. Another thing that I learned is pay attention to your uniforms. So that same guy I was telling you about when I was playing with him, he was like, hey man, you're in your whites, by the way. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you have your white uniform on. And we were not in a snowy environment. So that's one thing that you want to obviously pay attention to because you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. So each game, look at the map that you're in and you can adjust from there. Now you don't get a lot going off the rip, but you at least get, one snow outfit or one white and then, uniforms. And as you start to rank up, you'll start to get more things here and there. Another thing that I learned is that, your gun isn't going to auto reload for you, at least on the last round. When you're using something like a K98, any kind of bolt action, you have to, at least let go of the ADS so that way you can go through the animation and reload, but make sure you're paying attention to that. There will be times where you aim down sight on an enemy, he's right in front of you, you think you got an easy kill, and then all of a sudden you pull the trigger and nothing because you didn't take the time to reload. Another thing that I learned is that your KD doesn't matter, okay? In Call of Duty, this is a big thing, even in Battlefield to an extent. But in Call of Duty, it's I say it's everything, but it's, very important. Where do you sit on the ranks of things? Well, this is a team game. This is not about you. And so if and this is how I played starting out. I mean, my first, 3 or 4 matches, that I was worried about getting kills. That's what I wanted, And so that's the complete opposite way of thinking in this game because all of those first games that I played, coincidentally, I ended up losing, or at least most of them, I'd say 90% of them. So when I started actually speaking up, talking to people, figuring out how the hell are we playing this game, we started getting wins. And so that's a really good feeling. The kills will come. You almost just have to be patient and work for them. So it's like, talk to your team, do your job, get in the right position, get your kills, get the win. Kind of goes in that order. But your KD is not the main concern here. One thing I will say is that if you find yourself struggling at times, especially around strong points and stuff where there's a lot of enemies going on, use tall grass. I have something with tall grass in this game, but it seems like if you can, get around the flank of a strong point and lay down in tall grass, it's almost like people will come right to you. So really using that grass and going prone can sometimes rack you up some good kill numbers. Also, when you hear this sound right here, oh, that indicates a headshot. So that way there is some audible indicator that you actually did kill an enemy. It's kind of tough sometimes to tell, especially at distance, but if you hear that sound, again, you've gotten a headshot and you can move on to the next enemy. Last thing we'll talk about today is the way people talk to you in this game. I am used to a toxic community where I have been toxic myself. How many of you have watched my streams and just heard me rage over Call of Duty, right? It's kind of always been a toxic community. But, not like people hate each other, but you would think the way people talk to each other in Call of Duty that they would love nothing more than it to be a real life scenario. You see where I'm going with this. But it's always been toxic, man. You sometimes just asking the simplest question in Call of Duty will have people jumping down your throat. This isn't that community. So my suggestion is if you come in and you are that toxic player, well, good luck. Second of all, if that is like an intimidating thing to you, if you're not really into that, the whole trash talking and all of that, which I admit can be fun sometimes, this is a good game for you because I'm not saying it never happens in this game, but I will say that the majority of the talk that I hear is people communicating, trying to get the win. And it really is a breath of fresh air when you come from a COD community that is nothing like that. It's almost like you can equate it to COD is a solo campaign, even in multiplayer, whereas this is a team game all the way around. So that's it, man. That's 5 things that I learned. I'm also going to leave cards to that original Hell Let Loose video so you can watch that and kind of see where I'm coming from, man. And again, if you like my content, make sure that you subscribe if you want to see my progression in Hell Let Loose and the other games that I play right here, man. I'd love to have you join the community. Big thanks. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.